our time on Freedom. The next half hour is entirely dedicated to the main news of Friday, as well as the important topics of the whole week. Mikhail Barano, hello? The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, has arrived in Germany on a working visit. In Munich, he has already visited a military production facility and will take part in the 62nd Annual Security Conference. It is expected that more than 50 heads of state and government will gather there. One of the key topics, along with the war in Ukraine and the situation in the Middle East, will be transatlantic relations. Vitaly Sizov, a special correspondent for Freedom TV in Europe, is working in Munich and will tell us more about the meeting. Hello, Vitaly. What is happening in Germany right now? Who has arrived at the conference? And have there been any statements made already? Please, the floor is yours.
Mikhail, literally any minute now, here at the Bayerischer Hof Hotel, they are expecting the arrival of Volodymyr Zelenskyy, but he hasn't arrived yet, because the first stop on his visit to Germany was a joint Ukrainian-German military enterprise for the production of strike drones. Ukraine plans to scale up this experience.
Today, I received the first jointly manufactured strike drone. We saw the production line and the first flight of the drone. This is a modern Ukrainian development, battle-tested. It is equipped with artificial intelligence. It will carry out strikes, conduct reconnaissance, and protect our soldiers. And already this year, 10,000 drones produced here will be delivered to Ukraine and will strengthen our forces. Ukraine has long been working on opening joint production lines in Europe, and today this line is operational, the first one in Germany. This is a real result. In total, by the end of the year, we'll open 10 joint ventures for the production of Ukrainian drones. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, president of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Well, it's not just the president working in Munich. Even before his arrival, as part of a side event at the conference, a Ukrainian House. Ukrainian defense industry products are also showcased here. Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Andriy Sybiga, attended the opening of this house. While he was there, he held a series of brief talks with his German counterpart, the politician Johann Wadeful. In his speech at the opening of the Ukrainian House, the Ukrainian minister spoke about Ukraine's priorities at this conference.
Ukraine is a priority at this year's conference, and we are living in a new era. Security outsourcing for Europe is over. It's time to develop internal strength, and this is only possible if Ukraine is an integral part of the new European security architecture.
So the Ukrainian minister essentially proposed, without saying it outright, Ukrainian military power as a means to maintain the security system in Europe, against the backdrop of the United States of America reducing its presence on the European continent. Then the Ukrainian minister met with his Chinese counterpart, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, and following the meeting, he stated that China still recognizes Ukraine's territorial integrity and respects its sovereignty. The situation in Ukraine was also commented on by the Romanian Minister of Foreign Affairs, who was also present at the opening of the Ukrainian House.
The fact that they bombed maternity hospitals, buses carrying workers to their jobs, and that small children died from their bombs is clear evidence that they are not serious about peace negotiations. And that is why we need to increase international pressure. Within the framework of what we are discussing at the European level regarding security guarantees, we believe that the main security guarantee lies in continuing to support the Ukrainian army, as it is the first line of defense. But this will also be the main security guarantee. On Romania's part, we have increased what we are already doing in terms of logistical support and training.
Thus, the Romanian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Oana Toiu, commented on Russia's actions. In her opinion, Russia is not ready for peace negotiations. At the very least, it is doing everything to show its unwillingness. It's difficult to seriously talk about a ceasefire in Ukraine. Recently, literally. Just a few minutes ago, it ended. The opening session, At the Munich conference, again, let me repeat, it's expected to start any minute now. Literally, they're expecting the arrival of Volodymyr Zelenskyy here. He is one of the most prominent and influential political figures attending this international conference, alongside the Honorable Marco Rubio, who currently serves as the US Secretary of State. Their arrivals are expected to be around the same time. There's actually a very noticeable and heavy police presence all around here. And quite a lot of journalists are here waiting for their arrival. These two are probably the main newsmakers of the Munich Security Conference. Mikhail.
Thank you, Vitaly. We can see there's a lot of excitement around the Munich conference, including from the media. Thank you for your work, and we're looking forward to more updates from Germany. We were joined live by Vitaly Sizov, special correspondent for Freedom TV channel in Europe. He spoke about the largest defense conference in Europe, which was also attended by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. We'll discuss the event in more detail with our guest a bit later, but for now, let's move on to other important topics this Friday. Last night, the Russian Federation launched an Iskander ballistic missile and more than 150 drones at Ukraine. Most of them were Shaheds. This was reported by the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The Russians attacked from 6 directions. Air Defense Forces managed to neutralize 111 drones. This has been confirmed. A missile and 24 drones struck at 18 locations. In Kramatorsk, the Russian army deliberately targeted a residential building. 3 brothers were killed. The youngest was 8 years old. The children's mother and grandmother were wounded, according to the Donetsk Regional Prosecutor's Office. In total, over the past day, the occupying forces shelled settlements in the region 28 times. More than 24 houses were destroyed and a gas pipeline was damaged. Kherson also came under Russian fire. There was 1 fatality and 5 people were injured. One of them, a 70-year-old man, stepped on a Lepidstock anti-personnel mine. As a result of the detonation, he suffered shrapnel wounds to his legs and a closed head injury, according to the head of the Regional Military Administration, Alexandra Prokudin. The attack damaged 6 apartment buildings, 6 private houses, and a gas pipeline. In the Zaporizhia region, Russian forces attacked a civilian car with an FPV drone. According to local authorities, it was parked near a private house. As a result of the shelling, a woman was killed and a man was wounded. In total, over the past day, the Russian army carried out 559 strikes on 37 settlements in the region. For the second night in a row, the occupiers are attacking Odesa in the region with drones. 1 person was killed, 6 were injured. The condition of 3 of the wounded is serious. Doctors are fighting for their lives. As noted by the local administration, the targets of the Russian strikes were industrial and energy infrastructure facilities. Warehouses with fertilizer were damaged in the port and freight cars caught fire. The aggressor also targeted them, as well as the residential sector. Attack drones hit the upper floors of 2 high-rise buildings. A car dealership and a service station burned down completely. Dozens of cars were burned out to the ground.
The largest scale fires were at the car dealership. The biggest fires were at the car dealership and in the garage boxes. There, the fire covered an area of almost 2,000 square meters. There was also a large fire at an energy facility, which was significantly destroyed. 2 high-rise buildings were also hit. Fortunately, there were no casualties or subsequent fires there. There was also a fire at a port facility. Unfortunately, 1 person died there and 6 more were injured.
The total combat losses of the Russian army since the start of the full-scale invasion have exceeded 1,250,000 personnel. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, 800 occupiers were eliminated in the past 24 hours. Additionally, according to their data, 5 tanks, 3 armored combat vehicles, more than 40 artillery pieces, 1 multiple rocket launcher system, 1 air defense system, and over 1,200 operational tactical level drones were destroyed, and nearly 130 vehicles. There were 142 combat clashes recorded on the front line yesterday. This was also reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian occupiers tried to break through the Ukrainian military's defenses 37 times. Fierce fighting is taking place in the Hulyaya Pole sector of the front. There, the Armed Forces of Ukraine repelled 24 Russian assaults. In the Konstantinivka sector, 12 attacks, in the Lyman sector 4, and on the southern Slobozhansky bridgehead, the invaders attacked 13 times. They targeted the positions of the Ukrainian Defense Forces, trying to break through toward the settlements of Vovchansk, Akrimovka, and Kolodezne.
if the situation in the Pokrovsk direction is very difficult. There is a steady trend toward things getting more complicated. So, in the south of Zaporizhia, in the southeast of Zaporizhia, Huliaipol is tough, but to the north of Huliaipol, things are happening a bit differently. It's not necessarily what you would call a Russian offensive in that direction. It's more like enemy maneuvering and movement. If it hasn't been completely halted or stopped, then at least its intensity has decreased quite significantly.
And we're returning to the main topic of the day, the annual security conference, and to how Ukraine is becoming part of the new European architecture. In Munich, world leaders are discussing military threats and strengthening defense capabilities. Their main focus is the Russian aggression against Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has already arrived in Munich. He is also expected to take part in the forum. A series of bilateral meetings is scheduled over the course of 3 days. The issues Ukraine plans to raise include security guarantees, increasing military production, and strengthening air defense. Zelenskyy emphasized that more joint ventures are needed.
It's an important day. There will be new steps toward our shared security, Ukraine's and Europe's. The plan includes a joint Ukrainian-German enterprise for drone production, as well as bilateral and multilateral meetings with partners. We need more of our joint productions, greater resilience, and better coordination and effectiveness in our shared security architecture. In Europe, the most important thing we can achieve together is to end the war with a just peace and to establish reliable security guarantees for Ukraine and all Europe, so that no one in Europe would be afraid of being left without protection. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.